Okay, hello. My name is Sean Johnson, and I will be doing a podcast kind of slash YouTube video. This will be up as a YouTube video, but obviously it is in a podcast format, uh, and it will be on cyberbullying. So, what I'm doing in this podcast is I am interviewing three different people, or I will be at least pretending to interview or pretending to set up an interview with three different people about cyberbullying. So we will go ahead and go straight into the first one, which is an interview with someone who has been cyberbullied. So cyberbullying obviously is a sore subject, one that people may not want to talk about right away. Um, so I definitely try to go to somebody who is comfortable. I don't have anybody in mind, but I'm sure there's people that would be willing to share their experiences in order to help people in the future kind of deal with the effects of cyberbullying. So I feel like giving their point of views on what happened would uh, help people, you know, figure out ways with their own situations. So I found a statistic from enough.org that 59% of people have experienced some sort of online harassment. And that's pretty crazy to think because, I mean, that's way more, or not way more, but that is a little bit more than half of people. So, personally, I've experienced a little bit of harassment. It's not, necessarily so much of cyberbullying, but I think that statistic kind of speaks for itself too. The harassment kind of differs between people. Obviously, some people have it worse than others do. Um, but yeah, I'd just like to talk to this person about their experiences and what were the side effects that they were, you know, coming across from being cyberbullied. So, how did it affect them on a day to day basis? What ways did they find to deal with it? Because a common misconception of people saying, how to deal with cyberbullying is, oh, how are you being cyberbullied? Just turn your computer off or, just stop going online or something like that. Well, number one, you shouldn't have to think like that. That shouldn't be a way to solve things. Everybody should be allowed to, use as much internet or social media as they want to, and they shouldn't have to worry about being bullied. And then I would also ask them, how to deal with all of this. Because, like I said, they shouldn't have to, completely stray away from internet. Um, I think a way that would definitely be able to deal with this would be to just tell somebody. Another statistic that I found from enough.org is that 60% of teens that are being cyberbullied actually tell somebody about it. And that is a pretty crazy statistic for me because, I feel like a lot more people should kind of be open about talking uh, with problems, especially if it's something that's affecting them that much. Because there can be, some of the side effects, as I talked about a little bit earlier, is that not only will you not want to go on the internet, but it affects you too if you're in school. So some of these teenagers are in high school, which in most cases it is high school or middle school or even college. They're going to not want to go to school, and it's going to affect them. It's going to affect their mood. And they could be a joyful person, and this experience with cyberbullying can just kind of sway them in different directions to the point where they just don't even want to talk to anybody, or they just want to be by themselves. Another statistic that I found is that 70%, uh, there was a 70% increase of cyberbullying during lockdown, which just makes sense because, bullies have to resort to some form of bullying because they're not going to be in person anymore. So, and everything was over, Zoom or just online during lockdown. And 70% increase. That is also another very crazy statistical number. But going back to the interview, I would as try to get as much information out while being respectful as possible. I would ask them how they were cyberbullied. Was it like some form of social media? Was it just texting? Was it emailing? And how did it affect them? Did they want to go to school? Uh, did it affect their mental health? Which I would be surprised if the answer was no, because if something is happening to you where it is affecting you on a day-to-day basis like that, it has to somehow affect your mental health. So I would get as much information out of them as I could, and then just have a little episode on from the point of view of somebody that was actually cyberbullied. And now the next interview that I would do would be a parent of somebody who has been cyberbullied. It's another perspective because a lot of people don't really, notice necessarily, especially because of that statistic that I brought up. Only 60% of people that are being cyberbullied will actually tell somebody about it. So, uh, these teenagers, these kids don't really want to come out clean about it because, in a way, they kind of feel like they're burdening someone, or they might just be, in a sense, embarrassed about it, which understandably. Um, One thing I will say is that I don't know what the case is for other schools, but I do know back at my high school, we actually had somebody come to our high school, and it was a parent whose, I believe it was their son, actually killed themselves because they were being cyberbullied so bad. So they go from school to school, kind of just trying to get people to stop bullying and showing them the side effects of what can happen. And in this case, the parents did not really realize that something was happening to their children or their child, and until it was too late. So definitely try as a parent. You want to try to notice some of those signs. Um, but you got to notice things like how has it changed their attitude, and this is kind of the stuff that I would ask the person that I'm interviewing. It's hopefully the case would being that their child is still all right. But I would ask things like did you notice right away that your child was being cyberbullied? How did you notice? Did your child tell you? um, and just the ways to really make them feel safe. So a few of the things that I actually found from a list that was also from enough.org was ways to help your child if they are being cyberbullied. And here are some of the things that I got from the list. And I would kind of bring up these points during the interview, and I would ask, to the parents, did you use any of these methods while you found out that their child was being cyberbullied? So the first one that I found was just collect all the evidence that you can. In other words, you know, any form of cyberbullying that your child has come across, just kind of collect that, take screenshots or something, or save emails, save texts, save posts on social media, all that kind of stuff. Another big thing would be to work with the school. Now, for most cases, I believe that schools do have big campaigns against cyberbullying. So, if there is a case of cyberbullying right in front of them, I think they're going to do a good job of, breaking it up, talking to the other student. Because another big problem for people that are being cyberbullied is they don't want to, they might be afraid of confrontation. They don't necessarily want or their parents or something like that to straight up get involved with the other parents of the one that is cyberbullying, or just straight up, or even the school to get involved with the cyberbullying. So, make sure, of course, that the child is comfortable with all that. And again, I would ask what happened in the case of the parent that was uh, the parent of the person that was being cyberbullied, what they did in their case. The next thing I would do is straight up get counseling for the child. That's another thing that I found from enough.org, and I thought, that is a great thing to do, because one thing that I mentioned before was the mental health and how mental health can be affected a lot by cyberbullying. So I would definitely get counseling involved. I know counseling can be very helpful in situations like this. And counseling, honestly, it's kind of got a negative connotation to it nowadays. If you're getting counseling, people think there's something like very wrong with you, but that's absolutely not the case. Counseling can absolutely help people that are struggling with things, and cyberbullying is absolutely one of those things, especially if it is affecting you as much as it does affect some kids. Because unfortunately, for some kids, it does come all the way to suicide, which is absolutely not acceptable, especially for bullies. Something that's completely unavoidable. Um, so yeah, why not try to fix it? And then another thing that I saw was getting police involved, because a lot of forms of cyberbullying is the bully is actually making some form of, verbal or physical threat. They say that they're going to hurt them or beat them up or something like that, and that is obviously against the law. So if the police get involved, it would kind of scare the cyberbully in a way where it may stop. Hopefully it would stop, but getting them involved would definitely stop any form of violence or harm getting done to the child. And I would also ask the person that I'm interviewing if they did have to contact the police, what exactly was going on with that. And then the last thing that I saw from the list was, just implementing ways to hinder any of these reoccurring cyberbullying events. So maybe it may be too early for children to be on social media. I know a lot of the cases, some parents believe around middle school or late stages, or yeah, I'd say it probably late stages of middle school, or right around that time is the best time for somebody like a child to get social media, because if they've got it in like elementary school or something, um, the kids aren't old enough to realize that they may be cyberbullying, or kids may be too young enough to uh, know how to deal with cyberbullying. So yeah, definitely make sure that they are old enough to be on social media. um, I would maybe keep an eye on the things that they're doing online, because if they're being cyberbullied behind the scenes, maybe you weren't paying close enough attention to them as you should have been, especially at the age that they're at, these teenagers. So that's definitely another way to hinder cyberbullying reoccurring. And the final, and of course, I would ask the person that I'm interviewing how they stopped cyberbullying from happening again. Hopefully, it's still not happening to them as we're doing the interview. And the last interview that I planned on doing, which this may be a little controversial, but I would interview someone who has been a cyberbully. And in this case, I would definitely make sure that this person is not still a bully, because in some cases, and hopefully this should be all cases, but some bullies absolutely do feel some remorse, some regret in what they've done. And I would just make sure that this person does regret, and they are willing to share as much as possible, because this is very educational information. And hopefully this interview would be able to help out somebody who maybe is being bullied, or who is even bullying right now. Maybe they'd have a change of heart. So the first thing I would get into them is you know most bullies do know that they are antagonizing somebody, but some may just be maybe understood or misunderstood, excuse me. Some may not even notice that they might be cyberbullying people. As crazy as that does sound, it does happen. Some people may not realize that, they may just think they're joking around, or, just kind of having fun with somebody. For example, in my high school, there was this one kid that kind of initiated a nickname that another kid in my high school did not really like. And they were friends before this, and they really thought that, they were just kind of joking around with one of their friends. But the other friend that was this nickname was made for, they did not really appreciate it. So this kid did not, necessarily realize that he was hurting his friend until the school got involved, because it was actually affecting him at home, these nicknames. And they are no longer friends, unfortunately. But there you go. People can be misunderstood and may not be realizing that they are cyberbullying or just bullying in general. Now, this is not necessarily, this is not me, kind of giving leeway to bullies, saying, oh, there's something going on at home, or, maybe they're misunderstood. Uh, but yeah, sometimes that is absolutely the case. So in this interview with this person who was a cyberbully, I would, bring up, were you misunderstood? Or were you fully uh, aware of the way you were antagonizing somebody to the point where it was affecting their mental health and stuff like that? I'd say, did you know how you were making them feel? I would just ask them a bunch of questions about that. And then I would also bring up a certain case about, I'm probably going to botch this name, excuse my pronunciation, but Anastasia Bykoskivia. And she said that in high school, or when she was younger, she was a bully. Some days she would just come to school and not feel like being there. She said there wasn't really much going on at home. She thought she was generally a good person, and she still does believe that. But she said sometimes she would just get involved with bullying that was going on, and she would be sometimes, at the front of it. She would be the one that was doing the bullying. And she realizes this was 20 years ago, and this was an article that she wrote. But she said 20 years later, she still feels remorse about it. She still regrets it. So during the time, she did regret it, but, she's still regretting it now. She said she had no reasons to be bullying, and typically the people that she was bullying were quieter kids that just, wanted to be to themselves, really. And she still did it. And this is why she feels remorse. She does blame some of this, though, on hanging with the wrong crowd, which there's never a good reason to be a bully or a cyberbully. But this would kind of be a good example for people that are bullying right now, something to show them that they're going to regret it down the road, because it's 20 years later and this girl, Anastasia, is still feeling the effects of being a bully, which is just, the remorse. And she did not like the way that she made other people feel. So she was able to learn from her experiences, and she said that she's been teaching her kids, ways of being nice to people, just as I'd say most schools do. So that's going to do it for the podcast. Of course, I interviewed or planned to interview somebody who was cyberbullied, a parent of somebody who was cyberbullied, and then also somebody who has been a cyberbully. And this all together just kind of provides educational things just to learn for somebody who may be in all three of these cases. So, for example, somebody who has, somebody currently being cyberbullied, parents of somebody, things to realize before something terrible happens, and then somebody who is being a cyberbully currently, because they probably don't realize it now, but terrible things can result from it, and then they will also not feel great about doing it.